Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Thursday, March the 16th, 2023. I don't know whether you've ever played with drones. They're actually quite straightforward. I mean, even I can fly one without it crashing. But you do have to follow the rules. Now, those rules are that it's got to fly within your line of sight, and it shouldn't be 400. How is it? It shouldn't be higher than 400 feet. And indeed, your controller should automatically stop it from going too high. So, what about the American drone in the Black Sea? Was it within line of sight of the operator? I mean, it was at 50,000 feet high, I believe, or something like that. And I can't believe that a drone was really in the line of sight of an operator. I mean, how could that possibly be? So, in terms of domestic drones, that American drone that was destroyed a couple of days ago was breaking the rules. Of course, the American military can do what they like, and I somehow don't think that American drones have to stick to 400 feet and be within line of sight. I mean, we saw, the Obama regime was flying drones through Pakistan, killing people left, right, and centre. You might have a wedding in Pakistan, and suddenly an American drone turns up and kills everyone. Maybe the operators in Florida. So, yeah, it is a bit disturbing. But anyway, the Americans are really annoyed about their drone being destroyed by the Russians. And what I want to do today is look at the chart for the moment when that happened. We don't really know exactly when it happened. The BBC and Reuters are giving one time, but I think the Russians are giving another time. But I suppose as it's a Western audience, I'll go for BBC and Reuters. I think it happened at 7:03 a.m. Central European Time on the 14th of March, somewhere in the Black Sea. And so I will look at that. But first, I'm going to look at the stars for today. And it is, let's have a look, see what's going on now. Today is Thursday, March the 16th, 2023, and it's actually quite a busy day. The moon continues to move through Capricorn. Now, that should slow things down. People should be more sensible. People are going to put their self-interest first before doing anything crazy. At least that's how it should be. However, you do have to look at other things going on. It's not just the moon in Capricorn. What we have is a conjunction between Sun, Mercury and Neptune here. And this is square Mars. And in particular, there's a very close Sun-Mars square. And while all this is going on, Venus is exactly square Pluto. So that strikes me as being a lot of activity. So let's unpack it. So Sun square Mars. These are two male planets, very fiery planets. So when you have Sun in Pisces, square Mars in Gemini, there is the danger of arguments and fights, regardless of the sign. Sun and Mars can be connected with explosions, with getting burnt, electrical injury. Even without the influence of Uranus, you can get that. So we really do have to be careful today, because there's plenty of scope for doing stupid stuff, especially with Neptune. Look at what Neptune involved. Neptune is the planet of chaos, and people getting confused. So when you have Neptune and Sun and Mars all together, then things could go wrong. Be particularly careful with water, and so if you're playing with the plumbing, not such a good idea. If you're mixing electricity and water, then you're really asking for it. So I'm suggesting that maybe now is not the time for doing DIY. You have to ask yourself whether you really know what you're doing. So don't do anything which is remotely dangerous, whether it's for fun or you're trying to save some money. Perhaps you can leave it till later. That might be better. Also, there is this exact conjunction between Mercury and Neptune. So, on the downside, the Mercury-Neptune conjunction is going to certainly make us feel confused. Mercury is now extremely weak, very, very weak. We are not going to be able to make good decisions. I mean, I said that yesterday, but really, we should not be doing anything important in terms of making decisions. And if we're doing calculations, perhaps you're doing your tax, double check your figures because you might have got something wrong. Really, go do it. Add things up again. If you've given someone a message, consider the possibility that the message is confused, and that's even without Mercury. Mercury is not even retrograde. Yeah, you have to be really careful about that. On the plus side, one of the standard things when you start learning astrology is that Mercury-Neptune aspects are connected with psychic abilities. So we may be very sensitive to what's going on around us. We should use our heart as well as our mind to try to understand what people are saying and what people are communicating. Because really there are two channels of communication. There's a channel of communication you see on the surface, and then there's a more subtle undercurrent. So if we've got a psychic streak, now might be the chance to put it into action. But just because you think someone is thinking something doesn't mean you're right. So that's a bit of a contradiction there, because where there's psychic power or where there are psychic claims, there is also deception. And as far as relationships are concerned, Venus is square Pluto. We had Venus, Venus was starting to square the Pluto yesterday. Now it's exact. So obsession, people getting obsessed with each other, believing that someone is their soulmate, believing that it has to be. There's no such thing as a relationship that has to be. A relationship is very often a temporary structure, and if we think it's written in the stars that it's going to last forever, we're probably kidding ourselves. Now, as far as the drone is concerned, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the chart for BBC, Reuters, what they said. They said it happened at 7:03 Central European time. So that's what I've set this up. I've said this is Kherson now, which is a town in southern Ukraine. But in fact, the coordinates are for the Black Sea. I've tried to go for somewhere like 60 miles off southwest of Crimea. So this is roughly the chart for when the drone crash disappeared, I think. And I think what happened, there was talk about the propeller of the drone getting interfered with by the two Russian planes. There was another story that the Russian planes dumped a load of gasoline on the drone. And that kind of, if that's true, then that kind of shows up in the chart, as I'll show you in a minute. But you'll notice that Uranus, a planet of accidents and malfunctions and explosions and earthquakes, is rising. Apparently this is a serious event. The Americans took this very seriously when one of their drones got shot down. Even though it was flying well above the 400 feet limit, and it wasn't in the line of sight. I think it was flying at 50,000 feet. So this is a serious incident. I believe in Washington they called in the Russian ambassador to complain. And so Uranus rising, that that gives us a flavour of what was happening. And Pluto is on the midheaven. So Uranus and Pluto, serious event. We have the signature of a crash with the Uranus rising. Also, obviously, as I've just said, Mars is square Neptune. There's Mars, 2445. There's Neptune. In fact, the ascendant is actually pretty close to the Mars-Neptune midpoint, not exactly there. So that Mars-Neptune was really configured, perhaps, by the ascendant. And Neptune is often connected with oil. So the idea of something being down by a load of oil coming from the sky in an aggressive way, that kind of fits. That kind of fits with Mars square Neptune. And on the ascendant, yeah, that's with the ascendant being on the midpoint. Yeah, I think that that fits pretty well. But the Mars Neptune square, we can see it somewhere else. Now, let me just show you the horoscope for the United States of America. Now, this is set for 10 to 5 in the afternoon on July the 4th, 1776. We don't know for sure whether that was the moment when the Declaration of Independence was signed. But it's a chart that is most popular for the American for the United States. And you will see that the United States has Mars square Neptune. So this signature is repeated today, this fundamental way in which the United States asserts itself. Mars, the planet of anger, the planet of aggression, the planet of war, square Neptune, the planet of confusion. And it seems that as America gets older, I mean, it was founded in 1776, and to begin with, it's, America's, with poor America, its biggest military success was right at the beginning. And kind of after that, it's been all going downhill. I mean, it's had been successful against some inferior countries, but, the Second World War, I suppose, but it didn't do it on its own. America it's probably its greatest military triumphs are behind it. But with this Mars square Neptune, Mars represents, obviously, well, the Defense Department, the American Armed Forces. Square Neptune, increasingly as America grows older, it doesn't really know how to adequately assert itself. The wars it's got involved in have often not really gone well, particularly since the Second World War. It's had Vietnam, which was a disaster. The Korean War was a close run thing. It was a bit of a stalemate. I mean, at one stage, America controlled the whole Korean peninsula, then it lost it, then it got half of it back. America got involved in Afghanistan, but it got involved in Afghanistan twice. The first time it was attacking trying to undermine the Soviet invasion, which in one sense was successful, but as a result of that success, it unleashed Osama bin Laden, Islamic fundamentalism. It was as a result of America's intervention. That's why 9/11 happened. And with Mars Neptune, I think with the Americans don't really know what they're getting involved with. And likewise, the second Afghan intervention in the wake of 9/11 was, of course, a disaster, with Biden just pulling out. And now America's getting involved in Ukraine, and I think we're seeing Mars Neptune yet again. And so Neptune now, we're really there. I mean, Neptune on the midheaven, that's confused leadership. We got Biden as president of the US, square Neptune. They just really don't know how. They just don't know how to see it through. Then we can compare the two charts. We compare the United States chart with the drone, and see if there's anything anything coming up there. What we do notice here is, firstly, Mars is pretty. America has just had its Mars return. Mars has returned a couple of days ago. Returned to the place it was when America was born. I don't know what was happening on that exact conjunction. There was rumours that a lot of Americans and NATO officers were killed in a hypersonic missile strike in western Ukraine. Maybe some air defense command bunker. I don't know whether that's true, but it's possible that Mars Square Mars a few days ago, which of course we won't hear about it, but that's what it represented. And now a few days later, the Mars is moving on a bit. Perhaps that still gives us a flavour of the drone. We also need to look at Neptune, assuming that America really was born at 4:50 p.m. You will notice that Neptune, at the time of the drone attack, indeed at the time of the whole Korean War, Neptune is here on what astrologers call the IC. The fundamental roots of American society, and the IC is perhaps connected with our wealth, and Neptune is undermining it, and Neptune is opposition, has been opposition Neptune. Neptune is opposition Neptune, the 1776 Neptune, and that is, I think, causing a lot of chaos. And I think from an astrological point of view, it's not just about the drone, it's the fact that you've had the American financial system is under pressure. And I think we can see that things really are not good for the United States. And I'll go into Biden's inauguration chart at a later stage, but it's more signs of a country that really doesn't really know where it's going. I should point out also that, interestingly, America is considered to be so much about money. Money is, they say that money is America's religion. I think that's true. I mean, as I've said, it's not a God-fearing country. It's a country that pretends to be God-fearing. But money is supposed to be important to America. Yet, in the Earth, we have no planets in the Earth in Virgo. We only have Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus. So there are no traditional planets, unless you count the North Node, in the Earth signs when the Declaration of Independence was signed. That suggests a country that is completely ungrounded. That sees money, that doesn't really understand the value of money, it doesn't understand the value of material things, but it's obsessed with money. True, it's all about money. Money is all about everything. You can money. For example, if you want to destroy a grove of oaks and you're a developer, you can mitigate. You mitigate by paying money. That's what it is. It's all about money. Money can be a unit of exchange which can somehow make up for environmental catastrophe. And of course, the Earth is the environment, and of course, the environment is doomed in America. I mean, it's doomed in a lot of places, but the Americans, it's all about money. Sorry, I am completely going off the point here. So anyway, I've talked about the drone. Drone is just another sign of America's confusion. The Mars-Neptune square in the 1776 chart being actuated in the Mars-Neptune that we have now at the time of the drone crash. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out. I hope I haven't bored you, and I will see you tomorrow.